Welcome to self-discoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Choose Positive Living right here, or Their Story Matters, right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and all the way from across the water from Australia is Ruth Smith. We're going to be talking about a wonderful program that she has today, which is aquatic therapy. What is that, and what does it mean to us? Well, it means a great deal to us, and especially anybody that is facing emotional, physical disability. And we're going to be really diving deep into that. But she said she was born with water in her veins, or so it seems. Like, I think kind of when she came out of the water swimming, she expected to jump straight into a pool, but that didn't happen. But she feels that she really should have been born with gills because water is really where her sanctuary is. She's always had an inseparable connection with it. And for 42 years, teaching, coaching, and swimming in pools in Australia and overseas has been her genius. And at 14, she became an active Australian Surf Life Saving Club member and the first professional female beach inspector in New South Wales. And her professional and volunteer hours were wet. And an early career in disability care field, she was fortunate to be introduced to hydrotherapy, the hallmark method of numerous influential mentors. Water is the impact vehicle, the medium for which she facilitates and transforms the lives, especially when children with intellectual or physical challenges are added to the mix. And as a national prize winner of the 2022 Australian Teacher of Aquatics Access and Inclusion Award, she is really recognized around the world, but she's doing something rather extraordinary right now. She has decided that she's tired of being the only person that does this, and she wants to teach other people around the world to take it to their own countries and be more inclusive for people that really do have those challenges, because water really is something that really has so many beautiful different things that it can do for you in the psyche, in the physical, and just let's face it, we came up in our first 9 months in water. Water is something we're all very, very familiar with, and we were very at home in our mother's womb. So water really kind of, when you're in it and you feel that you're back there, it has that wonderful healing modality, which is wonderful. Welcome back to the show, Ruth.
Thanks very much, Sarah. It's a pleasure to be here all the way from across to Australia.
Now, I have to say, we did a fantastic interview a week ago, but I had a coughing fit, and then instead of pressing unpause, I pressed the button to cancel the recording, and at the end of it only noticed. So my apologies to Ruth and all the wonderful information shared with us back then, but I guarantee you we're going to have it all here today. So you should have had gills. There was that movie of that woman who couldn't speak, and eventually in the end, the waterman or the water something, but eventually she went into the water. They were doing some experimenting on this fish type man, and eventually she sets him free, and he takes her into the water, and as he does, her gills open up, and then she realized that's the reason why she doesn't talk. So is that you, Ruth?
Well, I can certainly speak underwater as well as above, but yeah, I've always had an affinity with water from very young. We grew up on a farm, and I can remember I was the youngest of four, and we would be taken down to the creek by mum and be jumping out of the willow tree. I really don't remember learning to swim. I just remember having the pleasure of being in the water, and it's never been something I've been fearful of. So I've been very lucky. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people are fearful of it, and that's generally due to an experience or not being around water growing up. And a lot of
Yes.
that fear is also kind of passed on by the parents who, oh no, I am fearful of swimming, and that goes to the children. But I think if we introduce our kids to the water very early,
Yes.
I think that is the one of the greatest gifts that we can give them.
Absolutely. And especially for children with special needs or challenging behaviours, as I sometimes like to say it. Yeah, the sooner we can get them into the water, the sooner, they can start to relax and start to really work hard on their muscle tone and their core strength, and be able to perhaps use swimming and relaxation in the water for a healing purpose, but also recreation, if we can get some safe propulsion out of the body in front of us.
Mm. What is it about the water? I know for me, when I go swimming, I literally lay there on the water. I could go to sleep. There's just
Mm,
something about the water that is so calming. I feel it bobbing up and around my body. It's like giving me a massage. It's just so beautiful.
yes.
But what is it for you, and what do you think it is for the people that you're treating that water is so safe?
I think the properties of the water speak for themselves, in particular the buoyancy. It's
Mm,
something that we feel cushioned by. It does hold us up if we're relaxed enough.
mhm.
And that's once we are relaxed, that does happen. But I think also the hydrostatic pressure that water has, and that means going deeper in the water, there's a pressure that surrounds our body, and it surrounds us evenly. It pushes on our joints and our muscles, and as we get older, we lose that feeling. But a lot of children, especially children who are quite sensitive or with challenging behaviors, they seek that feeling, and it's a calming feeling. Releases the stress hormone, and we flood our bodies with the happy hormone dopamine. So it's an exhilarating feeling for some of the kids. It really changes their function.
So you're saying that, I mean, for some kids, it's just bobbing up and down, the head is out of the water, but for some kids, they like to go deep into the water to get that kind of pressure. But of course,
Absolutely.
they've got to learn how to breathe in that way, or hold their breath in that way, which I'm sure is, don't just throw your kid in, oh, they're going to get some nice therapy at the bottom of the water. Teach them how to handle the water first.
That's right. You've got to respect the water, and that's where it starts. There's some water familiarization, but a real respect for the water, because at the ocean in particular, it's a wonderful modality, but it's also, you have to respect it.
Yes. As with anything in life, there is something we'll have to learn on how to manage it. If you get
Yeah,
into a car, you've got to learn how to drive it. You've got to learn how to pay attention to who else is on the road, and etc. Riding a bike,
yeah,
anything, even when we're learning to walk, we're learning the how-tos and how to use it. So, I mean, learning actually how to swim, for I'm sure with some kids, we say that they're like a fish. They take to it immediately.
yeah,
But for most people, it's like, hands out in front of you, breaststroke, backstroke, whatever. This is how you float. Is
yeah.
floating the first thing you teach them?
It's one of the first things. Yeah, it's. I mean, at the very beginning for beginners, it's really bubble blowing and having
Mm.
control and head strength, so that once we can lift our head and take a breath, we can move on from there. But it's such a coordination too. You
Mm.
need such coordination to even do a dog paddle, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah.
Because when you break it down, it's quite a complicated thing to do. Learn to swim.
Hmm. I actually only really learned, although we had a beach home right by the seaside, I actually didn't learn how to swim until I was at boarding school at the age of 10. And I
Ah,
remember that first year learning to swim in the water and then realizing, oh, this was different than chasing the waves, because I never
yeah,
really got into the water and swam. I just chased the waves, right? But
yeah,
this is like I could immerse my whole body in there. And especially as an asthmatic, I
mm,
found that learning to swim in backstroke is the one I loved. And I
mm,
found that just from the sheer movement, moving your arms back, opening up your chest and your lungs, it became
yes,
something that was really, really strengthening for my asthma.
yeah,
And but at the same time, so calming and so peaceful,
yeah,
that I wish I hadn't waited that long. But we weren't kind of those kind of swimmers. I don't think we ever
yeah.
went to a pool before then. So,
It's, underneath the water, even just laying in the water with your
mm,
ears water on your back, it's quiet.
yes,
It's that kind of wonderful sound that you hear. It's hard to describe, but it's quiet under there. So a lot of people seek that.
yes. There are a lot of people that do the polar bear swim, or I've got a friend that goes every single day, doesn't matter what the weather is, and she's out there swimming. And
Oh,
it's like, I'm not sure I can do that. I'm not sure I can do that. It's not so much like you get in, and I know it's meant to be extremely healthy for you and good for inflammation and all of that type of thing. It's the getting out freezing into freezing weather, like when we have extremely hot weather, I just love getting into that cold water, and you can just, your body first feels the shock, and then it's like a, ah,
that's right.
completely, right? And that feeling is just so sensational. It's peaceful, it's comforting, and then you start doing those strokes and you just feel I can't do ground stuff. As an
Okay.
asthmatic, I also have a problem with gravity. You know, gravity and I am not good. Once I get down, I can't get back up. But I can do things in the water. And
Yes.
and that's really where I find that freedom, and it really supports my body.
And it's also, for a lot of the children that I work with aquatic therapy, it slows you down. So,
Yeah,
if you are going to fall, it's going to be a lot slower.
yeah,
It's not going to hurt you so much.
yeah.
I mean, you have a few more minutes to quicken your pace so that you can stay steady and upright. And we work with some of the kids with around that sort of stuff. Some of the children, especially those that have got cerebral palsy, I'll put weights on their ankles so they can walk around the pool and feel grounded. They can actually
Mm,
feel feet touching the
yeah.
bottom. And then their confidence grows and they can do
Mm,
this a little bit independently. And so we work from there, strengthening their little muscles and with the aim to be self-propulsion, whatever that might look like, but as long as it's safe. So a
yeah.
lot of what I do use specific equipment, like I'll use wrist weights and sensory toys or sensory equipment. We need to realize that the kids need to realize they have a midline. So there's certain things we do about that. So they've actually got two sides of their body that can work independently of each other and coordinate that motion. So there's lots of bits and pieces we do. It's quite fast paced as well. So
Mhm.
there's a stamina component, but all the way through, we're working on proprioception, knowing where their body is in space. Once you, as you mentioned, gravity,
Yeah.
well, water has a very low gravity medium. So,
Mm,
dealing with limbs that feel like they're floating away for
yeah.
some of the children when they get in this medium, it can be scary and quite off-putting. So there's a lot to go that goes into it. We're working on motor planning, self-regulation, coordination, focus. I know fine and gross motor skills. So, they could perhaps do up their school shirt and be a little bit independent in their daily life. So there's
Yes.
lots of things that transfer to their life on land that the water we make good use of.
But it also becomes a sanctuary for them in many ways because there's things they can do in the water that they can't do on land. So it's liberating for them, isn't it?
Absolutely. And a lot of them who have been in wheelchairs for most of their day, that's where their independence comes, and they feel, confident in a
Mm,
different way.
yeah.
It's Yeah, it's a very pleasurable it's a very pleasurable career that it has found me, really.
Yes. And I think I always introduce my kids to kind of the water through the bath time. I would let them kick naked outside of the bath, the freedom of it. And then I would have a hot bath, and as the water cooled down, then I would bring them in, just hold them behind the head there and just let them go up and down the bath, immersed in that warm bath, kicking away in it. And they absolutely loved it. And they slept literally like beautiful babies afterwards, right? Because there's
That's
something about
right.
that water. And I think that,
Oh,
again, the earlier we can introduce them to it, the better.
yes. Oh, I totally agree. Totally agree. It's funny, I remember my mum who, she passed away never having washed her hair in the shower, for example. She couldn't cope with the water over her face. She always
Mm.
washed it over a tub. So she really didn't like the water at all, but the four of us became swimmers. But even holding your child in the shower and having the water come over their face, that's a really lovely thing to do. I remember doing that with our kids.
Yes.
And, even as little babies. So anything you can do that helps them get familiar with the water at an early age. It's fantastic.
Any kind of water you can get. I mean, you talk about a shower. I mean, there's a wonderful technique called tapping, EFT, emotional freedom technique, and tapping. I love tapping in the shower while the water is running, because it's
Okay.
it's kind of you're speaking to whatever issue you're having and you're releasing it. And there's something about the shower kind of washing away the problem.
Yeah.
And it's like it's not only is it just cleaning, yes, it's nice and practical, etc., because the water is washing away the dirt, but it also can wash away the worry and the anxieties and the everything else. And sometimes they say, give your worries to the water, it'll wash them
Yeah.
away, right?
Yeah. Well, I must say, I spend a lot of time even in the bath of an afternoon, of an evening. That's my sanctuary. Even though I've been hours in the pool teaching and working, but yeah, I find it my happy place and relaxing. Yeah.
Okay, so there is a question. How do you get over the prune skin? Because if you've
Well,
been in the water all day long, or has your body turned into a wetsuit now?
no. It's interesting that there is a theory as to why your fingers and your toes
Uh-huh.
do go like that. Now, it could be a myth, but it was told to me some years ago because that only happens on your fingers and your feet. It doesn't happen in other parts of your body. But apparently, our ancestors, and that's where it's come from, when they were walking through the water and having to grab fish and fight for survival, they needed this grip, and that's how it's kind of evolved. There was this, because they spent so much time in the water, they were then able to grip better with the skin going like a prune, and they could grip better with their feet. So it was a survival mechanism, and we still see it today.
And not,
So I
as
looked
you said, not everybody has it.
at,
Or after a while, it will manifest.
yes, after a while it will come there. If you're in the water for an hour or more, yeah,
Yeah.
you'll start to see it. But I look down at my prune fingers and I think of that, so it's not so
Yeah.
bad.
Well, I mean, there's a reason for everything in life, isn't there? There's nothing that goes without some indication of that it's there for a reason.
Yes.
As I said, water for me is very sanctuary. I love living near the body of water. I love
Mm,
hearing the water kind of washing up against the shore, or even a lake,
yeah.
watching the sunlight on the lake or the wind and the ripples or the trees reflected on it. There's just something about water. But there's also water is a conduit. It is a great place to actually connect to a higher power, to connect to a higher consciousness, because there is something in that water. And you have certain people that have prefer a lake or an ocean
Mm,
or a land over the other because of the connection to that water.
mm,
So this is why when people are actually swimming and making that connection, this is why in many ways it can also open up, their kind of their psyche and their awareness, because
yeah.
that water is supportive physically, but it also opens them up emotionally and spiritually in many ways.
Yes, I'd agree with that. And probably where I get that is at the ocean. Yeah, the
Mm,
beach. Most weekends, I need to go to the beach. Not need, but we
yeah.
gravitate to the beach. And I'm sure I don't have to be in it, but to hear it. You're right.
Yes.
And feel that sea
Yeah.
breeze
Mm,
and
hmm.
smell as well. It's very sensual.
Yeah.
I heard that word some time ago, and I think they're right. It's a very
Yeah.
sensual experience to being in water.
Well, the thing about the sensual, it doesn't always mean sexual. And this is where people
No.
get misconstrued. And the thing about sensual is that it heightens your senses. And when all
Yes.
of your senses are actually heightened, the awareness of everything else, it just
Yeah.
everything, the blinkers come off and everything becomes broader. You see things differently. You
Yes.
feel things differently. And from, that narrow perspective that we're inclined to have as humans, it opens up to what else is possible. So the more
Yeah.
we can have things that open up our senses, the better.
Yes. Couldn't agree more, Sarah. Couldn't agree more.
But I mean, there's also something sexual about water too. So whatever you're looking at as well.
That's right. Water is sexy.
It does it all, folks. It does it all. Let's face it. You can see a tanker or, these monstrosity cruise ships that are meant to be like 5 hotels in one. And you think of the weight of that. And they're not necessarily wide, they're top heavy. And yet
Mm.
how they manage the water carries them, but you can drop a stone and it will sink to the bottom. So water is fascinating.
It is fascinating. It really is. It is. It's really fascinating.
How does that work? And I know it always baffled me is how can it carry that? Yet you can dive through it. And there is no
Mm.
other substance. I suppose wind can carry an airplane as if it's got a
Yeah.
motor, but you can also get blown around by it or walk right through it. So I think there's an awful lot of stuff in nature that we don't really understand. We don't understand the power of it and just how
Yeah.
powerful it really is. And
Yeah.
again, as you said, you've got to respect the water and knowing exactly why the water is, what it can do and what it can't do. I
Yeah.
think it's very, very important for us when we go in it to respect that there are safety things you need to do. So is it good to actually introduce a baby, or a young child to water first? Like, like literally getting dunked in.
Oh, you
In
mean at the ocean, you mean? Or
Yeah, well, ocean or the pool or anywhere or the bath, kind of getting them used to the face being either underwater or on water. Because you said your mum couldn't take the water on her face. So is it good I know when I had my cat, I would always put my hand over her face and just massage her ears that way so she wouldn't be afraid of a hand approaching her. And always
okay.
with my kids, I would always kind of splash them or even dunk them a little bit just so that they weren't afraid of the water. Would you
Yeah,
say that's a good idea to get
absolutely.
them that?
Absolutely. Yes, for sure. And yeah, we usually start in our, because I run a swim school as well as doing
Mm.
the aquatic therapy. So from 6 months, we will, accept children into our mums and bubs classes, for example. Other swim schools will do it a little younger, but they always have homework as well. The young ones,
Yeah.
get the splash, have a little. A watering can, little one that the kids use, and splash that around their face like a shower, I guess it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to see the parents enjoying it. So
Yes.
the kids are going to feel that vibe, aren't they? If the
Yeah.
parents look stressed about being in the water, well, the child's going to feel that as well. So that has a big impact as well.
My oldest grandson of all of 28 months has been showering with his parents like all his life, right? He loves the shower. And recently I had a weekend down there, and the first day we were going to the water park, but it's by the ocean. So and he and I walked over to the ocean. He put his feet in it and you could just see his face going, and then you just sat in it. It just sat in it. It felt good. And then running in and out of the water park which he was doing. And then the next day we went to a lake, and he had his life jacket on. He was out there with mum or dad or whatever, and he fell over. So he literally
Mm-hmm.
went right in under. And then I came up behind him and laughed and just wiped his face and Goofy, you want to do that again? And then he just carried on swimming. So, and I think a lot of fear or anxiety that gets passed on is being passed on for our own fears, right? So if a child does dunk or does have an experience, don't make heavy out of it, right? Make light out of
No,
it.
that's right, absolutely. And as you did, make it fun and let's do it again.
Yes, yes. We didn't necessarily do it again, but it was things like he was just carried on playing in the water without any issue, right? Which is good because I think we do pass those fears on. Um,
Definitely.
now,
There's there's also those children too that perhaps with more challenging behaviours, they're drawn
yeah,
to water. So,
right.
wherever they are, if there's a body of water, whether it's on a walking around a golf course with your family or at the
Mm.
beach or another pool, yeah, they run and they can be a bit dangerous. So we need to curb that behaviour and try and work with that with a routine. Usually, is what I
Mm.
implement.
If
Yeah.
you do have a child like that, for God's sake, get them in swimming lessons extremely fast so they actually know what to do and how to cope with it. Because the last thing you want, is they've gone off in the water and they don't know what to do. I can't remember what video I was watching many years ago. And I don't know if it was might have been out of Russia or something, where they, take babies extremely young and literally put them right underneath the water and let go. And they're a few
Wow.
feet under the water, but the babies find their way right back up on their backs, right? The
Wow.
natural instinct is to come up on their back and spit out the water. And
Okay.
it was a way of getting, from, because if we relax, our bodies will float and
That's
come
right.
back up, right? So it was like the babies would automatically go on their backs coming up. But I don't think that's so automatic. I think what we do need to do is show our kids how to turn over,
Yes.
and then, don't fight the water, go with the
Yes.
water, but lay on your back.
Definitely. And look for safety. That's the other
Yes.
thing we implement into our lessons. We always talk about, making a decision for the safest route
Mm.
back to safety. But yeah, getting up onto your back is paramount. At least in that way, it gives the parents, a couple more seconds to be able to race in. And that's the other thing. If children are in trouble, it's generally silent. So if they can roll over
Yes.
on their back, at least they can yell out and make some noise.
There's a device that's on Facebook that's been promoted a great deal, and it's a wrist thing. So
Oh,
if they go down too far, they can press the wrist thing and it's a big, huge bubble, and they can use it in the ocean, in the pool, everywhere, and it brings them back up to the surface.
really? I haven't
Yeah,
seen anything like it.
I'll have to send you the link to that. It's pretty cool. And I thought, okay, it's not a life jacket, I don't know how great it is in the ocean, but it brings them up to the surface. At least the wrist does, and then hopefully the head does too. But but it's something, and it's not cumbersome. They can still
Yes.
swim and all of that, but when they feel they're in trouble, they can
Yep.
press the button, which, the age group of it, I think is just depending on the child and how you teach your children. It could be
Yeah.
as young as 2.5 or older, but I think it's like, oh, you can't breathe, you're in trouble, you press this. So, our
That's a
kid, we don't underestimate our kids, right? If we show them the
no,
way, they know the way. So but the thing is getting in and showing them. Um,
absolutely. That sounds
oh,
an interesting device.
it is, isn't it? It is, and it's something that isn't so big and encompassing, for some people. So if you're more likely kind of get your slightly older kids wearing it because they
Yes.
don't feel I'm being made fun of for wearing a life jacket in the pool,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
That's
it
true.
because there's always that issue as well. Now,
There is.
you talked about like this multiple sources of cerebral palsy, which of course they can't walk. So we're putting the weights on their legs and they can actually put their feet on the ground. I mean, that must be so extraordinary for them where they feel the power of walking and, they're stretching all the muscles, etc. But we talked earlier in our last show on kids with autism
Mm.
and the effect that it has on them. So let's look at that.
Yeah, so that's a huge spectrum, but
Mm,
general terms, that's right. It's very calming for
mm,
kids with autism. That's the first thing I notice. They're a lot more focused. I can get them a lot more focused. A lot of the aquatic therapy I do is one-on-one, but a lot of what I do can also be implemented into the traditional swimming lessons, of which we see a lot of challenging behaviours coming into our swimming
mhm,
lessons. So that's the other side of it. But yeah, children with autism, often they find it difficult to look you in the eye. So, being able to work with them, say, through a puppet or their favorite toy in actual instruction. So you can still, get some instruction to them and they can still participate quite well. They really take to the water. They're probably the one population that will be drawn to the water.
mhm,
And I have had a couple of children with autism that we've actually put in implemented a routine prior to coming actually onto the pool deck with me, such that they have to speak to their parent. Do I have my goggles? Do I have my
mhm,
towel? Is it time now for me swimming? Can I go swimming? A couple of questions like that. And then they come to the pool deck and then it's my turn. Okay,
yeah.
who gets in first? I do because I'm the big person. So, there's a few little things that we do on the pool deck, and then we're allowed to get in the water. But I'm explaining this because one of those boys last year, he was 8. He went on a school excursion, and it wasn't to be by the ocean at all,
Mhm,
but they had some time on their side. So they had lunch in a park and you could see the water, you could see the ocean. And this little boy went to his teacher and went through the whole routine.
mm,
So, time for my swim. Do I have my goggles? No, you don't. Do I have my towel? No, you don't. So the questions went to a point where he realized, oh, okay, I'm not going to run to the water. It's not my swim lesson.
right,
It's aquatic therapy. I'll just sit and have my lunch.
right.
So it was, and the teacher relayed that then to the parent when he was picked up, and it was amazing. It worked. It
Yes.
was,
Yeah,
yeah,
because no point in telling them no, you
that's right.
can't, right? Because that doesn't, there's water,
That's right.
but
Yeah,
no, you're not prepared for it because you haven't got everything you normally have to get into the water. It's like, okay, that's rational, that's logical,
that's
right?
right. He's
No,
happy to sit and eat his lunch with his friends.
right.
So,
So stop
yeah,
fighting the kid, look at a different way of communicating with the kid. And if there is a particular process that they're normally used to doing in anything that they do, and they
yeah,
can't do that process, then it becomes okay, then I guess I can't do it.
that's right. Because a lot of us, we like a routine. So his
Yes.
routine wasn't quite normal that day. So
Mm,
he understood it's not swim time. So it was great. But yeah, all children are challenges. I work
yeah.
across a variety of kids, and it's just, I don't know, it's quite a selfish pursuit because I get so much out of it, Sarah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I can imagine because anytime that a child or anybody gets joy and you see the joy, that it's intoxicating, right? Seeing that kind of joy coming out of them. And so, that's what you're meant to get out of any career you choose, folks. When you see joy in the results of what you're doing, then you know you're doing it right. Now, I have a
yes.
grandson of 3 months old that has Down syndrome, and I
Hmm.
know that water would be extremely good for him. Can you explain why and maybe what age group is a good age group to start introducing him to the water?
Yeah, look, it's difficult. I mean, with the developmental processes too, with some kids with challenging behaviours, that's a little bit delayed. Normally, I would suggest 3-year-olds. That's when something formal would take place.
Mhm.
My personal preference is 3 and up. However, getting into mums and bubs classes at 6 months is also good. Downs, we need to consider their ears and their adenoids and their piping, so to speak, in their head, because that can be really irritating for children who have Down syndrome. So you really have to be careful with their ears.
Mm,
So around 3, things are starting to develop. that way that you can actually start. But still, I've had a couple of Down's children who really can't tolerate water anywhere near their head. So, laying back or going underwater until maybe 5 or 6, just because the ears are a real issue. But now I have a 17-year-old Down syndrome boy who's, looking to join a squad, so he's really progressed for many years now. But so that's what my advice would be. You really have to be careful with the ears with the Down syndrome.
So like no showering with the kids at that stage and
Oh no,
and
no,
just
all that's fine and all that's possible. And to go into the water, use
yeah,
earplugs and
right.
swimming caps. But my experience has been that they suffer ear infections a lot. Even when they have a cold, it can affect their ears that way too.
Yeah.
So
He's always stuffed up. That's one of the problems we're having with him, digestive problems and constantly stuffed up, poor little thing. So I suppose that for him right now, that any water getting up his nostrils could be something that could be kind of feeling too much for
yeah,
him. Mm.
and it's quite, if their ears are a little bit stuffed up as well, it's quite loud, that
Yes.
noise of the water. And that can be quite startling and fearful. And, then you start on a bit of a trajectory that you don't want to go down.
Yeah.
So it's a try it and see what happens. But around the three-year-old is really good because
Okay, I would definitely bear that in mind because I mean the other day, as typical babies do, he had a lovely explosion, and it was like, my daughter's got him by the head and the feet, and then I'm taking the kitchen sink thing all over him, but he was loving it. He was loving,
yes,
but it wasn't on his head, it was on his body, and he was just kind of, this is wonderful. So,
yes.
kind of stay away from the head area for now, but like let the body enjoy the water, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And, just see how it goes with his ears, but just be aware of that. He
Yeah.
might be that it doesn't affect so much.
Right.
Yeah.
But I would imagine because, if with Down children, children with Down syndrome, there is all the muscle problem that's delayed. And I would imagine that the swimming would be very, very good at developing that.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with the use of dumbbells. I
Mm,
use dumbbells
mm,
to do like a gross dog paddle or a big arms
mm,
freestyle eventually down the track. But they can spin. It's good for their core. And as they get older, putting flippers on, that's going to strengthen up their legs.
mm,
Being able to increase their neck strength as well, so that
mm.
they can lift up, and take that breath. What I have found with some Down's children I've worked, and this is at an older age, if they want to learn to dive, we have to be careful with their
Mm.
neck, because some of the children, we can't dive until we get that all cleared from the doctors and whatnot.
And they're all at different development. When we call him the wobbly right now. He's only really wobbly after he's eaten. Up
Oh,
until then,
really?
he's doing very well. He's holding his head up really good. But once he's eaten, he's noddy, And really, like, it's just sometimes really amazing how that head can be whiplashed and how strong it is
Yeah.
in moving. But then he hasn't, but it's only after he's eaten. And then once he's eaten, he's fine. So it's kind of weird.
I
But
must
that's
say,
the
after
thing
I've had
is,
I'm a bit wobbly too after a big feed.
yeah, we just want to go to sleep.
That's right.
He's not allowed to. We've got to hold him up for a period of time for his digestion before he can go to sleep, unfortunately. But I think
Yeah.
it's any child of anybody, whether it's emotional or physical, we have to look at there is the generalities of what you can do for them, but also each child, you have to look at them as individuals and what they can take and what they can't take, what they're ready for, what they're not ready for, etc.
So true. And that can change every day. So, I'm working with children one-on-one each week. So it's a weekly session, although some children come twice a week. But what you worked on last week, you may not get to in the second session. It really takes a fair bit of intuition and observation. How are they presenting? How are they walking towards you? What are they wearing? Are their clothes tight today? What's
Right,
going on with them? Have they just had a terrible day at school and they're super anxious?
right.
But as they come into the water, and it's interesting, Sarah, different children will sit on different steps, therefore
Ah,
different depth in the pool, depending on their day.
aha,
So some children who come straight down the stairs and the water's up to their neck, they're straight into their relax mode, and things are going to be probably pretty good. But those children that come down and sit on the very
step
top
two,
and their
step three,
feet are
step.
in the water,
Yeah,
that's right. They've probably had a bad day, and we need to take a different approach here.
right.
So there's lots of things to just observe before they even get in the pool. That's just one of them. Hmm.
I think, whether we're looking at people with, with challenges or not, I think it's actually, we all have that. We all have indications on how our day has gone or what our state of mind is in. And,
Yes.
we kind of always kind of demanding from each other this, that, etc. And it's like, can't you read the signs right now? The
Yeah.
signs right now is that I'm a bit shut down or I'm
Hmm.
overwhelmed or I'm this and that. And I think that, working with children like this, it must make you look at adults and the signs that they have, more intuitively.
Yes, but as adults, we learn how to cover all that, don't we?
Yeah,
That's
we
why.
do badly. Yes, yes. It's not good. It doesn't work for us, folks. To cover things up and deny things is only going to manifest another way. So we need to be open and upfront with it because and if people can't see the signs, then we need to let people know what they are,
That's
you
right.
know?
I mean, even the classic of "How are you today?" Most of us
Yeah.
just go, "Fine, thank you," but
Yes.
maybe
Yes.
if
And
we were
inside the voice, the head is going,
right,
yeah.
if we were upfront and honest with that question, I think that would be a good thing.
Now, stepping away from kids right now, which you primarily work with, but I know that water has always been a great aquatic thing for me. For as elderly, uh, baby boomers, etc. We start losing kind of muscle and we start losing a whole load of other things and we gain more stress in our body in many ways. So like water is a really great place for like aquatic classes for strengthening, again for
Yeah,
easing up the muscles and things like that. So it's not just kind of for the kids or those with those issues. It's, we look to the other spectrum as well, where the elderly or anybody who's had a physical injury.
that's right. Well, you can get on they've got bikes submerged,
Mm,
stationary bikes submerged in water now. So you can do, and treadmills, you can actually do treadmills in the water as well. I've seen it on videos. I
mm,
haven't seen it in person. But yeah, I mean, I do deep water running, and I
mm.
there's aqua aerobics, as you mentioned. That's really important to keep going. I was at the pool only yesterday with some kids, and an older lady approached to use the lane, and I said, "Sure, let's share it." And she said, "Oh, I have to get back into my swimming." And I thought, "Oh, that's good. Maybe the
Yeah.
doctor has suggested, hey, swimming is the medium, which
Yes.
is great."
Yes.
You know,
And I think it's also like, I know that I've gone to classes with a friend of mine that does it all the time, and I can't jump up and down with my legs because it just sends them into a spasm. So I
Mhm.
know I'm better at doing the exercise where I twist and do this and do that, and then my lengths and at my pace, etc. And I think
Right.
it's like know your body, listen to your body. Yes, you're trying
Yeah,
to push it a little bit, but at the same time don't overdo it because the price you're going to pay is a lot harder. So
yeah,
even if you do join an aquatic class or do anything else, know what you can do and what you can't do. Trust your gut. Doesn't matter if somebody says, oh no, you should do that, or
yeah.
it's not work. Don't listen to them. Know your body. You know when to push it forward and when not to.
That's right, Sarah. Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, it's wonderful to see because I work out of three pools, one my own, but two others. It's so good to see a lot of the older population accessing the water,
Yeah.
and it's good for the kids that I work with because
Yes.
they're part of the community and they're
Yeah.
seen and they're spoken to, and it's just wonderful to see those pro-social skills come into it as well.
I've known people that every single day of their lives they've gone swimming from young to old, right? And it's
Wow.
kept them healthy. And there's, talking about swimming in the ocean, there was a woman I once met, she was 80, and she had virtually every day of her life, no matter what the weather, gone and swam in the ocean. And
Wow.
there I'm sitting there with a jacket on and everything, and I'm like, what is this woman, all wrinkled, etc., walking past me with a, her little hat on and everything. She goes in the water, she does some lengths, she comes back out. She hasn't even got a towel anywhere near anything, just walking, and it's like I
Wow.
don't know if she's crazy or courageous. I'm not sure.
Yes, I admire those people. I kind of think one day I will start that regime.
Hmm.
I'd like to think I would because there is something to be said for
Yeah.
cold water and cold
Yes.
immersion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know that athletes do it where they go soak into a
Yeah,
bathtub of ice because it's meant to reduce the inflammation on the
that's
muscles
right.
and everything when you've overexerted. So, and some people
That's right.
do 5-minute cold showers and things like that. And it's, I'm not sure I'm there yet.
Interesting. On the reverse of that, I met a chap probably a couple of months ago now, and we had a Zoom chat. And he was doing research for himself as well, but reading a lot of material. He's ADHD, and he was finding that really hot water in a
Mm.
bath, as hot as hot as hot as you can stand it, and submerging so the ears are under the water,
Uh-huh.
and be there for as long as you can take. And he was, up to like 45 minutes now. And he was finding that his medication was being reduced
Mm.
and his symptoms for, his ADHD was not as bad. So I don't know much about that research yet. It might be new, I don't know, but
Yeah.
then
Again, I think is be willing to try. I have fibromyalgia, so a lot of the time the body is like cardboard. It just stiffens up considerably. So going into the cold, it just aggravates that. So like the end of my
mm,
day, I've got a heating pad on my back. So the thing to
yeah,
loosen everything up, where some people it's like, I want ice pack. The
yeah,
ice pack doesn't work on me. I need the heat. So
yes,
I don't bathe anymore. I'll have hot showers, but I'll try doing
yes,
that. We have a water restraint on here right now because of the fires here in BC. So
mm,
we're already on water rations here because it's really,
wow,
really bad. I know you had it a couple of years ago in Australia, but we're there right now. The worst fires we've ever had in Canada's history. And
wow,
here on the island, we've got four, but yeah, it's really bad in certain areas. We've had no rain. Where we are right now, we haven't had any rain or water at all. So, yes, it's a lot of restrictions. So, long showers aren't in it or baths at the present moment.
no,
It's quick.
it's very frightening. And I did hear recently that I think Australia sent over a fourth contingent of,
Yes.
hundreds of firefighters.
Well,
So,
we've had them from all over the world, and they can't
yeah,
keep up because everything's so dry with no rain, and then we get storms. And of course, we've got imbeciles out there that set fire to things, the cigarette butts and campfires,
yeah,
which are being banned and everything. And it's millions of hectares have gone, and it's the worst ever in recorded history. And of course, it's sent terrible you know, um, I think that's the reason why actually I had that coughing thing because there's particles in the air, although there wasn't the smog. They say there's still particles in the air, and a lot of people with respiratory problems were having an issue.
yeah,
So,
right.
although you don't see it, so even what you can't see, folks, can have some negatives. So, um,
Yeah,
back to water.
yes.
You love the pool and you love the ocean, but are you a lake swimmer?
Not so much because I've not had the opportunity to be around a lake. Creeks because I grew
Yeah.
up on a farm. That doesn't bother me. But yeah, I've not had many opportunities on a lake.
Mm.
Hmm.
It is different because when I lived in South Africa, we were right by the water. We had the two oceans meet, the Atlantic and Pacific, right? So one side was beautifully ice cold, but beautiful, and the other side was really warm and kind of quite wavy. And it was the water was gorgeous. So we know we didn't have lakes so much. We didn't really
Yeah,
pay attention to that because we had that. But they're here, obviously, on Vancouver Island. We've got the waterfront, but we've got beautiful millions of lakes all over the place, which are absolutely exquisite. Lots of
yeah,
pockets of them. And it is very different because when you're in the ocean, you've got the waves taking you, the current taking you.
yes.
And I have a tale about that, which I told last time, but I'm in San Juan Islands, and my friends have a boat. They're sailing around. They said, "Come and swim out and join us. We'll pull you up on the boat." But the wind was too high. They couldn't get me, and so I'm swimming out there, and I realize I'm quite far out, but I'm
Right.
okay. I'm all right with that. I just kind of rest, lay on my back. But it's just before Jaws, the movie, came out. And it's in South Africa, we didn't have TV, so all we had was radio, Durham, 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 and posters, and we knew it was about sharks. And all of a sudden, I'm feeling things swimming underneath my back. And immediately the music started playing in my ears. And you start imagining all sorts of things. And I start swimming back to shore. My mother is on the shore looking for me. And somebody said to her, "Who's that idiot out there? Don't they know the sharks?" And she goes, "That idiot's my daughter." By the time I got back in, the adrenaline was so high because of this
Yeah.
Durham. I went and did 30 laps in the pool.
Kidding.
But
Wow.
it's
That
amazing
would
how,
be,
but yeah, no, but I did get bitten by sea spiders, which you had not heard of before, but they called them sea spiders because they are poisonous bites. And they come up and manifest the same way as a spider does. So they call them sea spiders. So I did get bitten, but it's
yeah,
amazing how the mind can change.
wow. And so they are spiders. They've got eight
Um,
legs. They look like
I
spiders.
don't know. I mean, I didn't see them, But when the doctor looked at the bite, he said
Ah,
it's the same as if you got bitten on land, the same reaction. But they call them sea spiders because they bite have the same reaction as they would. So yeah,
there you
two
go.
big bites on that, an injection on the other side, and I couldn't sit down for a week.
Oh, God. At least it wasn't a shark.
Yeah, no, exactly, exactly. Um,
Gosh.
but yeah, no, but it is amazing how the psyche can play tricks on you when you're out there complete. Because that music was so,
Oh, yeah.
especially when you didn't know what it was all about, you just knew it was sharks. So,
Still
and
today.
yeah, and the thing is, I think when it comes to swimming on anything, we've got kids that love things. You just do know where you're swimming. And if it's
Yes.
in the ocean, please pay attention. What's the current like there? When is
Mm,
a good time to swim? I know you're eager to get into the water, but please know your water. If it's a
yeah,
lake, is the stuff underneath it? Is it low? You're going to catch on anything, and are the
that's
piranhas
right.
in there? You know. So I think as much as we're drawn to water, and everybody thinks, well, I can swim, I'm fine. We've
Mm,
actually in South Africa seen people drown because of the current, and they were national swimmers.
wow.
Right. So it's really, I think, good whether it's a pool or wherever it is. That whole thing about have I got my goggles, this and that. I think the whole question that we should have, what kind of body of water am I about to get into?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And, being in Australia surrounded by the oceans, the surf lifesavers, but even in the nippers, they touch on reading the surf, but I don't think it's done at a young enough age. I don't
Mm,
think there's enough of that education, even
yeah.
throughout our, parents who perhaps move up from the Melbourne or areas
Yeah.
where, the beaches aren't quite, depending on where they live, they're not quite as rough as we have them, but just being able to read the surf is such a skill for our kids, and they really need to do that early on.
Yeah, I was in
Um,
Mexico. Beautiful. You would have loved this. It was the ninth floor. We left the window open, the sliding door open all the time. It was sea to sky. And you just
um,
hear the water crashing against the rocks at night. You have the smell coming through. It was absolutely gorgeous. And I decided to go swimming in then, and getting in the water was fine. But getting out, the current was so strong that I
yeah,
kept following. And my friend's daughter went there on holiday and broke her collarbone coming out because the
really,
the just flattened you as you came out. So I only once went in the water because it was such a battle to get out and slip to the
yeah,
swimming pool. But it looks so
yeah.
inviting. But
That's right.
again, that current, right? So you've got to know where it is. So now you
Yeah,
stepped into wearing another hat, and that hat is that you are going to be you are teaching. You've put a program together to teach people to do what you're doing, where they can get certified and take it to anywhere they are in the world, because you're
yeah.
basically the only one really doing this right now, and we need to see this duplicated.
Well, we do. It's not certified as yet, and it's mainly at the beginning. The first step I've taken is to create professional development plans and programs so that I have found and spoken to lots of teachers, swim teachers around the world, not just Australia, who are finding the same thing: the increase of children with challenging behaviours, undiagnosed, that are coming into our traditional lessons. And a lot of our swim teachers don't know how to deal with that. They think they're not a very good teacher anymore, so maybe I
Mm,
should leave the profession. That's my first concern. So if we can just create a program, which I have done, and get the strategies and techniques and the understanding of why the behavior is presenting in the first place.
mhm.
If teachers can understand that first, the child is not necessarily naughty.
Yeah.
There is a reason for his behavior, like the hydrostatic pressure, or why they can't look at you, or they're
Mm,
missing instructions. There could be a processing delay. So there's lots of reasons. So let's implement some strategies and techniques that the teacher can feel empowered and confident to progress the lesson, so everybody has a good time. But
yes.
on the other side of it, the aquatic therapy is really new in Australia. There are aquatic therapists in Canada, I know, and America. It could be in Europe as well. I haven't looked there, but it's a different definition over there to what
Mm,
I'm calling aquatic therapy here in Australia. And that's the profession that I want to see really take off. I would love to see it as part of an OT or a physio university degree,
yeah.
that the OTs and the physios understand the use of the water much better. So yeah, I've got big plans, And I've trained up a couple of my staff doing this work. I haven't got it certified yet. That seems to be quite a long process. But with regards to delivering professional development, that is possible. So, if anybody wants to join me and move this field forward here in Australia, by all means, get in touch.
Yes. And it doesn't matter where they are in the world, right? There's a
Um,
lot of things you can teach over
that's
line,
right.
etc.
Online.
And
Yes.
quite honestly, I'd like to see this as part of the lifeguard saving,
Yes.
of identification. I mean, we see this with the police force, where especially people with Alzheimer's or autism, they don't know how to treat them, and they think they're misbehaving or being angry or aggressive, and they're not. They're fearful,
That's
right?
right.
And so,
Yes. It's
and
overwhelming.
you've got an awful lot of autistic children that actually haven't been properly diagnosed, and the parent just think that they are not
Mm.
being good, and it isn't. There are issues there, and because obviously with Down syndrome or other things you can see it, but with autism it's something that it's the behavior that you begin to pick up, and not every
Yes.
parent is savvy to that. And so I think if it was part of the training in every lifeguard thing of how to recognize and what to
Mm.
do in those situations, a lot
Yes.
of our areas would be a lot better, and it would also help people want to go to swimming, but knowing that
Yes.
the lifeguards are trained in this way, right? But
Definitely.
also the respect and the dignity and the liberation that it gives someone who has those challenges to be in the water. I can stand, or the
Yes.
water is calming me, or this is where my freedom is at. I'm not
Mm.
hurting so much here. I think it's something we want to give every child,
Yes.
everybody. And I think the more that this program is out there, the more that we're actually, setting a platform for anybody who's going for any of these things to to have that respect and dignity of, this is a space I feel safe in, this is a space I feel empowered in. They take that empowerment back into their regular days, right?
That's
Because
true.
this is their rejuvenation. And
Yeah.
right?
That's right. And you see the confidence build,
Yeah,
that I can do this independently. I don't need everybody's help.
right.
And their strength and all the other things that we spoke about, fine and gross motor skills. That's right. They
Yeah,
they take that back to school, say they're having a morning session, and I'm starting a research project to actually prove Australian-based evidence research that this works and how it works and why it works, the aquatic therapy. So to be able to quantify, if they have a session before school, how are they at school? Are
mm,
they a little more calmer? Are they less impulsive? Are they more focused? How is their maths?
right.
How do they interact with their peers? So it's all that stuff that I'm starting a research project on as well. So lots happening.
Yeah, you got a lot on your plate. That is absolutely for sure. But at the same time, I mean, it's like the spider's web. You've got the core of where everything is, and it's just the different legs that are going out there. But every single one of them is intertwined. Every single one of them kind of leads back to, which is safety,
Hmm.
which was respect of the water, but the liberation of the water, because we know what water can do for us.
Yes.
Never mind the drinking of it, the floating of it, the swimming in it. I mean, water, where would we be without it on any
Yeah,
level, right? And we are 90% water, folks. So
that's
that
right.
identification with water, so it's basically your innards meeting the water is like being at home with it. So why are we not stepping up and doing this more? So like anybody listening to this, wherever you are, if you know a philanthropist out there, or if you know people that are, swimming or water, or you have a child that may be facing autism or any other challenges, and you know that this is something that would really benefit them, then you need to reach out to Ruth and say to her, what do you need in order to get this out there? Because it is something that we really do need to see. I'm really kind of quite shocked that it's only been scratched on the surface right now, that this hasn't been main, because we know exactly how aquatic therapy for injuries,
That's right.
how
Yeah,
it's worked and how it's mainstream. So
that's
why
right.
hasn't this become more mainstream earlier?
Well, I think there's a shift coming. The hydrotherapy is a wonderful medium because it's more about somebody that's already broken. They've
Yeah,
they've had rehabilitating, whereas aquatic therapy is working with this child there and then,
right.
whatever is in front of you, with the challenging behaviour, the body that's in front of you. But my dream, Sarah, is and this will be my retirement project, I'm sure. I would love to have a purpose-built pool here in Australia, close by my house would be lovely, where, it's
And a beach.
purpose-built. Yeah, near the beach. Maybe that could be one of the entrances. It has physio rooms and OT rooms around,
Yeah.
and we work collaboratively with the children. And
Yes.
we have things like rock walls that are coming out of the pool, and we have swings
Yeah.
and rope climbs, and really bring it forward in its entirety. This whole therapy game, I think
Yeah.
it could have a much more collaborative and multidisciplinary approach than what it is at the moment, and aquatic therapy needs to be part of that.
Yeah. I mean, emotional therapists using
Mm-hmm.
the medium of water. Like you can only do so much therapy, kind of quote, on land, but when accompanying a child to an aquatic therapy and seeing the difference of that child in there, can
Yeah,
give them an extra tool and skill. And well, I see them in the water. Well, if they can't be in the water today, how about we run some water? Imagine
yeah,
you're in the pool, they can use it as an extension of it, right? And it's like the more we're willing to help each other, the more
yeah.
we're able to everybody that's in this line of work of therapy, is it because you want your patient or your client to be better, to be stronger,
That's
right?
right.
So when you can all work together in a lovely weave, then all you're doing is magnifying that strength out.
Oh, absolutely. And perhaps getting to the goals quicker, you
Yes,
know. So I think we can have a greater impact on more children if we're working together.
yes. So you
Yeah.
just need philanthropists to build you a
Yes.
nice big pool, and then a few of the other people who love what you're doing to come in and say, I want to be a part of it. This is my modality. This is this modality. Let's weave it together. And then to make it so popular and mainstream that it's duplicated around the world.
That's it. Yes. Well, what do they say? Build it and they will come.
Exactly. Right. So
Yeah.
there's a few of you millionaires out there that don't know what to do with your money. Here you go. Here's something that
Yes.
is going to be long lasting, forever
Yeah.
growing, and something that will just expand on itself with your
Yes.
help. So there you go. We don't need another rocket ship up to space for 11-minute trip. We need something that is a little bit more lifelong lasting and that benefits the human beings here on Earth at the present moment.
Well said. Well said, Carl. Look me up.
Exactly. Now to look you up, how do
That's
they
it.
look you up? They're inquiring after anything that you've said here today, and they want to know, yes, you're in Australia, but anything that they even take to their own swim instructors here and say, look, Ruth is doing this. It
Yes.
works. How can we incorporate it? Because when people start talking about something, that's when things start growing and manifesting, right? So
Yeah.
how do people get hold of you
Yes.
with any questions they have?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. So people who are in the LinkedIn world, I'm on LinkedIn. I have I have a website, Aquatic Mentors. We actually have an online training program on there that can be done online, purchased online. Or failing that, my private email. I'm happy to give that out as well. So there's three ways we can be in touch.
So
Shall I put?
yes, no, LinkedIn, Ruth Smith Aquatic. Uh,
Uh, I might give you the details for that.
okay, no, I've got it right here. So I want to make sure that people who are listening, they also have it. So, and of course, all they have to do also just come to selfdiscoverywisdom.com and in the search engine put in Ruth Smith, Ruth Smith, Smith, and all of the information is there. But you've also got the Aquatic Mentors.com,
That's it.
.au, folks, AU for Australia, and
Yep.
give out your email, love.
So the Aquatic Mentors is
Right.
aquatic-mentors.com.au. And my private email is rsmith1@gmail.com.
Right. So just reach out through LinkedIn
Yeah,
or for any of the other mediums and drop her a line and, just say, look, I don't even know what I'm asking. But,
yeah, let's have
it's,
a chat.
this is my situation. What can I do? Whether you're a swim instructor, a swim orthotic person, or you've
Yeah.
got a child with a problem, the more that you're sharing that information, the thing is if we wait for status quo governments and things to do things, we're waiting for
Mhm.
the dark ages. All the innovations and everything that we see that is solution in the world has come from somebody like yourself who sees the benefit who
Yeah.
has the dream bigger than just doing what you're doing, because sees how it can reach other people, and you're out there doing it. So here's the
Yeah.
light on you, and may other people respect what you're doing and want to expand it out, and you're there to train them to duplicate it elsewhere, because the world is a big place, folks. Many people go swimming. Many people in
Yes.
your water, many people have autism is extremely high. Down syndrome seems to be growing. People with cerebral palsy or multiple
Yeah.
sclerosis or any of those things, they're there. And they had
That's
a
right.
beautiful show that I have on this last week from Mindy, who actually, through her son, who has multiple sclerosis, designing him jeans that he said, "Oh, I want to wear jeans for school." And he couldn't because of his multiple sclerosis. So she designed him some jeans, crying all the time because she didn't realize that he had such struggles. It ended
Mm.
up her creating an industry of children, of clothing across the board for disabilities. And now
Oh,
Tommy Hilfiger, Adidas, and many other places are doing it. Gourmet, G-A-U-M-E-T, it has now become the platform that other people come to and say, how do we do this? And did you know there were
fantastic.
1.8 billion people in the world with some form of disability
Wow.
that have struggles in clothing themselves because it doesn't fit, or the emotionals or buttons or this and that, and nobody's ever addressed it,
There
right?
you go.
So
Interesting.
And so when somebody sees there's a need for something and they create it, it opens up the whole world. So we'll open up to Ruth,
That's right.
help her duplicate this elsewhere and get that training out there, because
Yes.
it's working.
Yes, it
It
is.
it is
It's,
working. And so
yes.
we want to see this work for other people's lives in other places.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely, Sarah. So yeah, it's something that I'll be doing for many, many years. I kind of look forward to it. That's my retirement. I don't have to think about it. That's what
Well,
I'll be
I mean,
doing.
the thing is, you might be retiring from quote your day job, but then you step in. Well, all of it's your passion, but yeah, I
Yes.
mean, that's the thing is like I'm going to be doing this until I'm blind, deaf, and dumb, and I can't see the button anymore, right? So, and the oldest
Right.
person I've interviewed is 92 with her own TV station and took on a lover at 90. So, we never know. As long as you can swim and as long as you can do, you're going to be doing, right?
Aren't we lucky to be doing something we love doing, and
Exactly.
to pursue something, like this purpose-built pool, to
Yeah.
pursue something that I see is very worthwhile, and I believe a lot of people do. So, yeah, we're very fortunate. I feel very fortunate in this position.
Yes. And the impact that you're having on
Yes,
lives and the impact that they have on the lives of those around them. Because if
very.
you've got a child or anybody with have those struggles and you've given them that sense of independence, that sense of liberty, that sense of control, that strength, again,
Yeah.
it's going to be brought back into their daily lives, and it's now changes the family dynamics as
Well,
well.
that's right. You've got me thinking. There's, once a child, a child that has the challenges within the family, sometimes the siblings don't go socializing
Right.
much either because it's all around them. So
Yes.
if a child if the parent can be comfortable with the child around water, well,
Hmm.
now they're more likely as a family to accept the backyard barbecue where there's a
Yeah,
pool with their friends, and now we can all socialize. So
exactly.
it's a ripple effect.
Yeah.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Well, thank you for doing this with me again.
You're
And I'm glad
welcome.
that we did. I think it's a very important message to be out there. Folks,
Yes.
don't be afraid of water, and it's beautiful, beautiful gift because it really is. But also when you're looking at somebody that, does maybe have a child with Downs, or somebody with autism, or you see somebody that, talk to them. Have you heard of this aquatic therapy? And if they say no, then okay, give them the link to the show and start
Yeah.
listening to it, because the more they're inquiring about their own institutions around them, like say, do you have this? And they say, we don't know how, they can get hold of Ruth and
That's
she can
right.
show them how to do it. And then we start,
Absolutely.
you know, manifesting this
Collaboration.
everywhere. Exactly. That's what you're not trying to take monopoly of this, only my way and me. You want to clone yourself everywhere, like everybody can do it. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's do it together.
let's do it together. So please, if you've listened to the show, you know somebody that's anywhere in this field or anybody that's got challenges, talk, 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 speak amongst yourselves, get it going. That conversation, you have no idea who it's going to reach that says, I want to do something about it. This is what
Yeah.
it's about. Share the show far and wide, keep the conversation going, because when we can empower other people, that empowerment goes back into the general population and we all benefit from it. So let's keep it going.
Terrific. It's been a pleasure. This has been fun, Sarah. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you very much. Always a pleasure to speak to you. And I love what you're doing. I think it's extremely important. And other people need to see, well, I don't care if you don't have a child that has any issues. It's not about just your children. But at the same time, maybe your children are going from some stress or bullying or anything at school, and that water is a place that becomes that safe sanctuary for them. So, please, let's take off the blinkers. Life isn't a long linear. Let's be broad spectrum, because the more people that are out there living a joyful life, the better life will be for all of us.
Terrific. Fantastic.
Thank you so much. And to everyone out there, remember, water's your friend. Let's make it be a friend for everyone. Until next time, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tag at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.